The Legend of Jigong, Chapter 114.
It is the absolute definition of narrative whiplash.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it.
Right, because in modern media, we are trained to expect tonal consistency. Like a comedy stays a comedy.
And a thriller stays a thriller. You know what you're getting.
Exactly. We like to know the rules of the world we are stepping into. But classical texts like this one, which are rooted deeply in oral storytelling traditions, they just don't play by those rules at all.
They really don't.
They're designed to keep an audience entirely off balance. The single narrative swings violently from slapstick comedy to this gritty true crime story.
All to deliver this incredibly profound philosophical lesson about human attachment.
Right. It's a masterclass in misdirection.
Which is such a fascinating bait and switch. It's like a Trojan horse. But instead of soldiers, it's hiding an existential crisis.
That is a great way to put it.
The text uses these extreme, absurd surface events to trick you into dropping your guard, and then it reveals these deep psychological truths.
It softens you up with comedy first.
Yeah. And to start pulling this apart, the story begins in the most mundane, relatable setting possible. Just a local restaurant.
Just two guys sitting down for a meal.
Right. We have two men. On one side, Jigong, a Buddhist monk. And on the other side, Zheng Zhuangxiu, a Taoist priest.
The setting is totally mundane, but the subversion begins the literal second they open their mouths.
It really does.
So the waiter sets out the cups and chopsticks, and the Taoist immediately states his dietary restrictions. He asks for vegetarian food.
Which makes sense.
Right. It aligns perfectly with the ascetic practices of a devout Taoist seeking internal purity. The waiter confirms they have vegetarian options, but then Jigong, the Buddhist monk, chimes in and demands meat.
Wait, hold on. A Buddhist monk ordering meat. I mean, even someone with just a passing knowledge of Buddhism knows that strict vegetarianism is a core tenet.
Especially for monks, yes.
Right, because it's tied directly to the vow of nonviolence. So is the text just telling us right out of the gate that Jigong is a fraud? Like, is he just a fake monk?
That is exactly the question the original audience would be asking.
Oh, okay. So it's intentional.
Very intentional. In traditional Chinese society, a meat-eating monk is a shocking, almost offensive image. But rather than signaling that he's a fraud, the text is waving this massive flag to the audience.
What's the flag saying?
It's saying Jigong operates entirely outside the boundaries of conventional religious dogma. In Buddhist theology, there is this concept of crazy wisdom.
Crazy wisdom. I like that.
Yeah, it's the idea that an enlightened being might behave in bizarre, taboo, or socially unacceptable ways to shatter the rigid, preconceived notions of the people around them.
Oh, wow. So by demanding meat, he's actively messing with the Taoist.
Exactly. He is immediately challenging the Taoist's reliance on superficial rules.
He's establishing dominance by breaking the social contract, and that friction, it just instantly bleeds into how they order their food. It turns into what I can only describe as the social Cold War.
It really is a battle.
It's like that awkward moment at a restaurant when two friends aggressively try to grab the bill, but like weaponized. Jigong starts it off.
He does.
He tells the waiter to bring the Taoist a plate of fried dough flakes, and he explicitly says, "It's on me, I'm treating."
And this seemingly polite gesture is actually an offensive maneuver.
How so?
Because the Taoist, Zheng Zhuangxiu, immediately falls into an ego trap. His internal monologue is entirely about social obligation.
Right, he's stressing out.
He thinks, I don't even know this monk. He's buying me a dish, so I have to return the favor. And this brings us to the crucial cultural concept of mianzi, or face.
I definitely want to dig into that. Saving face is a phrase we use casually in English all the time. But here it feels like a life or death social mechanic.
It's a currency of social standing, for sure. Mianzi isn't just about avoiding embarrassment.
What is it about then?
It is about your perceived social prestige and your ability to fulfill obligations. The Taoist cannot allow himself to be indebted to a stranger.
Especially a monk who is already flouting the rules by eating meat. Right.
Exactly. If the Taoist accepts the gift without reciprocating, he loses power in the dynamic. He loses face, so he must return fire.
Return fire with appetizers.
Yes. He orders a dish for the monk. He says, bring the master a fried meatball on me.
And the escalation is hilarious because the text grounds it in such physical reality. They're literally volleying side dishes at each other.
There really are.
The monk orders vinegar bean sprouts. The Taoist counters with a bowl of meatballs. The monk orders fried tofu. The Taoist counters with stir-fried lamb.
It just keeps going.
The monk fires back with vegetarian cabbage soup, and the Taoist responds with stir-fried pork shreds. I mean, they were essentially using the waiter as artillery in a battle of egos.
The secondism of this exchange is brilliant, though. Look at what is actually happening.
What do you mean?
They are ordering food for each other that they themselves wouldn't eat.
Oh, well, I didn't even catch that.
Right. The monk is ordering vegetarian food for the Taoist, and the Taoist is ordering meat for the monk. It proves the exchange has absolutely nothing to do with generosity or nourishment.
It is entirely performative.
Entirely. Jigong, who understands human psychology perfectly, is using the Taoist's obsession with social norms to lay a trap.
A trap that culminates in one of the most audacious daylight robberies I have ever read.
It's so bold.
So once the massive table-breaking feast is over, Jigong calls the waiter and loudly proclaims, "Whatever the Taoist owes, I'll pay it."
And the Taoist, completely blinded by his need to maintain face, refuses. He insists he will pay for both of them.
And here is where the trap snaps shut. Because to pay the bill, the Taoist unties his bundle, revealing his travel funds. And it's 200 taels of silver.
Yes, 200 taels.
We are talking about the modern equivalent of someone pulling out a briefcase containing $40,000 or $50,000 in cash just to pay for dinner.
That completely changes the stakes. This isn't a petty theft. This is grand larceny.
It's a massive heist.
So the Taoist pulls out $40,000 to pay the bill. Jigong says, "I'll pay." And then he literally snatches the entire bundle out of the Taoist's hands, runs down the stairs, and bursts out of the restaurant.
The theft is so brazen that the Taoist's brain literally cannot process it.
He just freezes.
Basically, yeah.
Huh.
He is so locked into the rules of polite society that he interprets the robbery as aggressive generosity. He assumes the monk is just rushing to the counter downstairs to settle the bill. It's the ultimate cognitive dissonance. The Taoist waits at the table, probably feeling pretty smug about the exchange.
Right, thinking he won the politeness war.
Until he finally asks the waiter where the monk went, and the waiter delivers the punchline. He says, "The monk left a long time ago."
So good.
Not only did Jigong steal the $40,000, he didn't even pay the restaurant bill. The Taoist has to dig into his spare change, pay for the massive feast they just weaponized against each other, and then run out into the street to chase down the monk.
From the Taoist's perspective, this is a total disaster. He has been manipulated, humiliated, and robbed.
Yeah, worst lunch ever.
But from an analytical standpoint, Jigong has successfully isolated the Taoist's core attachment. The Taoist is a man who professes spiritual purity, yet he's carrying a massive fortune and is deeply obsessed with his social image.
So Jigong just strips all of that away in an instant. But this is where I have to push back a little bit as a reader. I understand the concept of crazy wisdom, but taking someone's life savings and sticking them with the bill, it just makes Jigong look like a con artist.
I get that. It feels mean.
Yeah. How does the narrative justify this behavior? How is this a spiritual lesson and not just a straight-up crime?
That tension is exactly what the author wants you to feel. In Buddhism, this is explained through upaya, which is often translated as skillful means.
Skillful means. What does that entail?
The idea is that an enlightened being will use whatever method is necessary, no matter how unconventional or seemingly immoral, to shock a person out of their illusions.
Okay, so the ends justify the means.
Essentially, you cannot teach a drowning man about the physics of water. You have to drag him out by the hair.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
The Taoist is drowning in his attachment to wealth and status. Jigong's theft is the violent yank required to pull him out of his complacency.
That makes sense.
But to your point, the text doesn't resolve this tension immediately. It forces the Taoist and the reader into a chase scene.
Right, because Jigong knows the Taoist won't just let $40,000 walk away.
Yeah.
He deliberately baits a pursuit.
He wants to be followed.
So the Taoist tracks the monk down at the entrance to the village. And we expect a tense confrontation, like maybe the monk is hiding in an alley or trying to fence the silver.
But instead, we get another massive subversion.
Yeah, the Taoist finds Jigong sitting in the middle of the dirt road in broad daylight with the stolen bundle wide open.
He is just casually inspecting the silver. The monk is holding the ingots up to the light, talking to himself.
Just giving a little review of his loot.
Exactly. He's saying, this is good white silver. This one is of good quality. But this piece is too damp. I'm not sure if it's any good.
The audacity is just staggering. It's one thing to get robbed. It's another thing to find the thief writing a Yelp review about the quality of your money.
The Taoist is apoplectic. He screams, "You stole my silver, and you're checking the quality."
He charges in, ready to just tear the monk apart. But this does not turn into a chaotic rolling in the dust brawl. It turns into something entirely different.
It turns into a masterclass in absurd geometry.
Yes.
The fight is governed by this strict, bizarre set of rules. The Taoist pins the monk to the ground and starts throwing punches.
But the monk doesn't block.
He doesn't fight back at all. He just lies there and counts out loud. That's 1, that's 2. The Taoist hits him exactly 5 times.
And then the monk calmly says, now it's my turn to hit you.
Precisely. The monk grabs the Taoist, forces him to the dirt, and hits him exactly 5 times.
Just an exact trade.
And then the monk voluntarily lies back down, offers himself up, and says, now it's your turn to hit me.
It is exactly like an old-school role-playing video game. You select the attack, you watch your character do the little animation, and then you have to stand there and let the enemy hit you back.
It's entirely turn-based.
5 punches each, over and over.
Hmm.
But what elevates this from a weird physical comedy bit into a profound philosophical statement is the crowd that gathers to watch.
Right, the bystanders. They form a circle, but they make absolutely no attempt to stop the violence.
Not at all.
Instead, they act as impromptu referees for this combat sport. And their judgment of the situation is incredibly telling. The crowd reaches a consensus.
What do they decide?
They declare that the monk is fair and the Taoist is unfair.
Which sounds completely insane. The Taoist is the victim.
He is.
He literally yells at the crowd, pointing out the obvious. He says, he ate my food, he stole my 200 taels of silver, and you're saying I am the unfair one.
It's maddening for him.
Why does the crowd completely ignore the massive felony that caused the fight and focus entirely on the mechanics of the punching?
Because the crowd is acting as a mirror for human perception. They're only capable of judging the micro-reality right in front of them.
The micro-reality, meaning just the fight itself.
Exactly. The procedural mechanics of the street fight. In that micro-reality, the monk willingly lies down and takes his 5 punches, which looks like sportsmanship.
He's playing by the rules.
Right. The Taoist, however, resists his turn and has to be forced to the ground, which looks like cheating.
Unbelievable.
The crowd is entirely blind to the macro-reality, the systemic injustice of the theft that created the conflict in the first place.
That is a staggering critique of how society functions. People will argue to the death over the specific tone of a debate or the procedural rules of a conflict while completely ignoring the actual massive issue at the root of the problem.
They get lost in the weeds.
They are obsessing over the symmetry of the violence.
And that symmetry is not accidental, by the way.
Why exactly 5 punches?
Why the mechanical turn-taking? Jigong is materializing the concept of karma into a physical slapstick routine.
Karma, like what goes around comes around.
It's often misunderstood simply as that, but at its core, karma is the law of cause and effect. It is a cosmic accounting system.
Okay, so it's about balancing a ledger.
Yes. The rigid structure of the fight is an exact balancing of the scales. The Taoist feels wronged, so he strikes. But in striking, he incurs a new karmic debt of violence which must be immediately repaid.
I see.
The monk's willingness to lie down shows his total acceptance of cosmic law. The Taoist's resistance shows his total ignorance of it.
He's literally fighting the universe.
He really is.
But just as this absurdity hits its peak, a wealthy priest arguing with a mob about the rules of a fistfight with the monk who robbed him, authority figures finally arrive.
And this is the moment that takes a massive, violent turn.
It really does.
Yeah.
The text rips us out of this comedic satire and drops us straight into a gritty psychological thriller.
3 Taoist figures push through the crowd to break up the commotion. One of them is Shen Miaoliang.
He's a respected master, right?
Very respected. He sees Jigong brawling with his younger disciple and demands to know why this monk is bullying his student.
And you expect Jigong to make a joke or maybe explain the karmic lesson, but he doesn't.
No, he gets very serious.
He looks at this revered 90-year-old man and recites a chilling, highly specific 4-line poem.
Do you have the poem?
Yeah, I have it right here. He says, "In the past, your heroic name was known across the 4 seas. You killed your wife, sought the Tao, and entered the profound gate. Hanlin bestowed upon you the light-splitting sword. Only then did you enter the ancient Taoist gate of the 3 purities."
The impact of those words on the old man is instantaneous. Shen Miaoliang is stunned into absolute silence.
Just completely paralyzed.
Because the text, through a sudden narrative flashback, reveals that Jigong hasn't just recited a poem, he has surgically extracted a horrific, deeply buried secret from 70 years ago.
The entire genre of the story shifts in a single breath to detail Shen Miaoliang's hidden past.
We learn that before he was a 90-year-old spiritual master, he was Shen Gudong. He lived in Jianji, and he wasn't a monk.
What was he?
He was a professional bodyguard. He was famous, tough, and respected. His reputation as a martial hero extended far and wide.
He's the classic rugged professional who travels constantly for dangerous work, leaving his wife, Cao Shi, at home.
To understand the tragedy that unfolds, we have to understand the role of a bodyguard in this era. This wasn't just about standing outside a VIP's door.
Right, it's not like a modern bouncer.
Not at all. The escort agencies were responsible for safely transporting massive amounts of wealth, goods, and people across dangerous, bandit-ridden territories.
High-stakes logistics.
Exactly. A bodyguard's entire existence relied on two things: his physical prowess to protect his cargo, and his unshakable public reputation. If a bodyguard looked weak, he lost his livelihood.
His reputation was literally his currency. And that is exactly what makes the inciting incident of his flashback so devastating.
It destroys him.
So Shen Gudong is on a break between jobs. He's resting at home, and he decides to go down to a local tea shop to relax. And while he's sitting there, he overhears two strangers at the next table gossiping.
The gossip acts as a spark that burns down his entire life.
What do they say?
One of the men says to the other, "The affairs of the world are hard to predict. A great man can hardly avoid having an unvirtuous wife or unworthy children." He continues, specifically naming Shen Gudong, saying that while Shen is a hero on the outside, at home his wife is engaging in shameless things.
The man literally says, "It's a pity that a hero like Shen Gudong is being ruined by his wife."
And when his friend asks how he could possibly know this, the first man explains that his relative is Shen's neighbor, and it is an open secret.
An open secret, that's the worst part.
And then he drops this incredibly ominous line. He says, if Shen Gudong ever finds out about this, it will definitely result in a loss of human life.
Wow. I wanted to dissect the specific language of that tea house conversation because it reveals the underlying psychology of the society.
It really does. Notice what the gossiping men are not talking about.
They aren't talking about love.
Exactly. They are not talking about the betrayal of marital love. They are not talking about Shen's personal emotional heartbreak. Their entire focus is on the damage to Shen's public face, a hero being ruined by his wife.
The betrayal is framed entirely as a public humiliation.
Precisely. In this societal framework, a man's honor is paramount, but it is also incredibly fragile. It is constantly at the mercy of the behavior of his dependents.
So his wife's actions directly degrade his status.
The society, represented by these anonymous patrons, views his masculinity as something that can be destroyed by his wife's actions. The affair isn't a private domestic tragedy. It is an existential threat to his identity and his profession as a protector.
Which brings us to Shen Gudong's reaction.
Yeah.
Because if you hear two guys in a bar talking about how your wife is sleeping around and making a fool out of you, the expectation is explosive anger.
You flip the table.
Yeah, you grab him by the collar. But Shen doesn't do any of that. The text notes that the men don't recognize his face, only his name. So Shen just sits there.
He pretends not to hear.
He finishes his tea, gets up, goes home, and says absolutely nothing to his wife.
The restraint is terrifying.
It is. He treats his own emotional trauma like a tactical problem. He doesn't act on hot, immediate passion. He acts with the cold, calculated patience of a professional assassin.
You've hit the nail on the head. He is applying his professional methodology to his domestic life.
Right.
As a bodyguard, his survival depends on assessing threats, gathering intelligence, setting up defenses, and executing plans without emotion. If a bandit attacks a caravan, you don't throw a tantrum. You neutralize the threat.
And Shen is doing the exact same thing here.
Yes. The next day, he tells his wife that he's picked up an urgent contract and will be gone for over 2 months.
A fake contract.
He packs his gear, leaves the house, and walks away. But he only goes about 3 miles down the road to a neighboring town. He checks into an inn.
Setting up a base of operations.
He waits until the first watch of the night, so early evening, takes his sword and sneaks back to his own house under the cover of darkness to run surveillance on his own wife.
And on that first night, he finds nothing. The house is quiet. There is no affair happening.
A lesser man or a more emotional man might burst through the door anyway, demanding answers based on the gossip.
Right, just unable to take the suspense.
Does Shen do that? No. He silently retreats to the inn. He sleeps. He waits. This is the patience of a man whose job requires him to wait for an ambush.
He goes back the second night. This time, he waits until the second watch of the night, much deeper into the darkness, when the world is asleep.
The tension here is amazing.
He creeps up to the house, and he hears it. The sound of a man and a woman laughing, coming from inside his own bedroom.
He still maintains his discipline, though.
Yeah.
He doesn't kick the door down. He creeps up to the paper window and uses his finger to poke a tiny hole through it so he can observe the room.
This entire sequence is framed perfectly like a classic film noir.
Oh, for sure.
You have the weary, tough professional standing outside in the cold, peering through the blinds. And inside, in the warm candlelight, he discovers the femme fatale and the corrupt lover plotting his downfall.
And it's so cinematic.
Through the hole, he sees his wife, Kaoshi, heavily made up and dressed beautifully. There is a table set up right on the bed, covered in expensive food and wine.
And sitting next to her is the neighbor, a handsome young scholar named Sun Zui.
The contrast there is striking.
The visual contrast the author creates here is stark and intentional. You have Shen, the rugged, hardworking man of violence, standing in the literal and metaphorical dark.
And inside, the scholar.
Yes, you have this soft, wealthy scholar, a man of privilege and leisure, enjoying the warmth, the food, and the wife that Shen's hard labor paid for.
And the conversation he overhears seals their fate. His wife says to the scholar, "The past 2 days he was home, I was terrified you'd come over and you'd catch us. Thank goodness he finally left for a job. He'll be gone for over 2 months this time."
And the scholar replies with this pathetic romantic line. He says, "My lady, I haven't even been able to study or eat. I just want us to be together day and night."
Which leads to the fatal question. The wife asks, "Do you want us to be long-term husband and wife?"
The scholar, confused, asks how that is possible given that Shen exists.
And the wife lays out the murder plot. She says, "You go buy me a packet of poison. When he comes back from his job, I'll throw a welcome home dinner, I'll put the poison in his wine, kill him, and then we can be together long-term."
It is the ultimate betrayal.
It's not a crime of passion. It's premeditated murder. And she plans to use the very act of welcoming him home, a gesture of domestic safety, as the weapon.
Let's examine the psychological weight of this moment for Shen Gudong. Remember his identity. He is a bodyguard.
Right.
His entire existence is predicated on securing perimeters, protecting physical assets, and guaranteeing safety against external threats.
It's all he knows how to do.
Standing outside that window, he realizes that the one place he assumed was a safe haven, his home, his marriage, is actually a lethal trap. The illusion of security is shattered permanently.
The text gives us his internal monologue right at this breaking point, and it is arguably the most devastating line in the chapter.
What does he say?
He thinks to himself, the closest relationship is between father and son. The most intimate is between husband and wife. But then he looks through the hole in the window and concludes, husband and wife share a bed, but their hearts are 1,000 miles apart.
Their hearts are 1,000 miles apart. It is a profound realization of ultimate human isolation.
It really hits you.
You can be physically closer to someone than anyone else in the world, sharing a home, sharing a bed, sharing a life, and yet be completely, utterly disconnected from their true intentions. Shen realizes that he doesn't know the woman he sleeps next to.
That realization is the spark that hits the powder keg. The text says his nameless fire, his pure, unadulterated rage flares up. His discipline finally breaks.
He bursts through the door, draws his sword, and slaughters them both. He ends their lives right there in the bedroom.
And here is where the narrative executes its most profound pivot. We move from a true crime revenge tragedy into a story of radical spiritual awakening.
After committing this double homicide, Shen's initial practical thought is to turn himself in to the authorities. He is a pragmatic man.
He calculates the odds.
He figures he will face a magistrate, there will be a trial, and in a few days he will be executed or imprisoned for life.
Right, which makes sense. He's accepting the consequences.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go to the police. Instead, standing there in the blood-soaked bedroom, he experiences a massive, instantaneous epiphany.
The text describes a sudden mental break. He looks at the carnage and thinks, human life in this world is like a grand dream. Fame, wealth, wives, children, and legacy. All of it is false. All of it is empty. It is better to leave the home life behind.
Why does extreme violence trigger enlightenment here? Usually when we read about a spiritual awakening, it involves a monk meditating peacefully under a tree for years.
It's usually a very serene process, yeah.
But Shen murders 2 people and suddenly understands the fabric of the universe.
It argues a very dark but compelling philosophical point regarding human attachment.
Which is?
The text suggests that as long as Shen's life was functioning, as long as he had his reputation, his job, and the illusion of a loving wife, he was asleep. He He was trapped in the material world.
He was comfortable in the illusion.
It was only when every single pillar of his worldly identity was violently, traumatically ripped away that he could see the pillars were illusions all along.
The trauma destroyed his ego.
There was nothing left of Shen Gudong to defend, so he simply ceased to be Shen Gudong.
Fame, wealth, wives, and legacy, all of it is false. He abandons his entire life on the spot. He seeks out a revered Taoist master, Zixia Zenren, also known as Lin'a.
He becomes a disciple. The master bestows upon him a light-splitting sword, which feels metaphorical, like a tool to sever his ties with the mortal world, and he enters the gate of the three purities.
What are the three purities?
The three purities are the highest deities in the Taoist pantheon, representing the fundamental cosmic principles of the universe. By entering their gate, he is officially leaving behind the dusty, violent world of men.
He takes the new name Mieliang. He completely erases the bodyguard from existence.
And he lives in absolute secrecy for 70 years.
Which brings the narrative crashing violently back into the present moment on the dirt road. This 90-year-old ascetic, Shen Mieliang, is standing in the street, staring at a 20-something-year-old Buddhist monk.
He is staring at Jigong, who just casually recited the exact details of a secret double murder from 7 decades ago.
Shen Mieliang is paralyzed. He asks, "Monk, how could you possibly know my affairs?" He looks at Jigong and points out the mathematical impossibility. Jigong looks like a young man. He wasn't even born when the murders happened.
This specific question is the cue Jigong has been waiting for. He has manipulated every piece on the board into position.
Everyone is watching.
The Taoist whose silver was stolen is watching. The crowd of bystanders is watching. The 90-year-old master whose past was just laid bare is watching. The chaotic facade is no longer needed.
First, Jigong does something incredibly practical, which forces us to rethink the entire first half of the deep dive.
Oh, this part is brilliant.
He takes the bundle of 200 taels of silver, the $40,000, and simply hands it back to the younger Taoist, Zheng Xuangxiu.
This is a phenomenal narrative trick. It retroactively recontextualizes everything we just read.
Exactly. It proves that the theft at the restaurant was never actually a robbery. Jigong didn't care about the silver.
He never did.
He staged the theft, and he willingly took those punches in the street fight, specifically to cause a commotion loud enough to draw out the local authority figure Shen Mieliang.
Every single chaotic, seemingly immoral action was a deliberate, calculated step in a master plan to orchestrate this exact encounter.
Which is just mind-blowing.
This is the ultimate demonstration of the upaya we discussed earlier, the skillful means. The Arhat doesn't care about societal laws against theft or public brawling because he is operating on a cosmic level.
He manufactured a crisis to break through the defensive shells of the people involved.
He needed the spectacle.
So he hands the money back, resolving the immediate crisis, and then he says to Shen Mieliang, "I will let you see my origins." Jigong reaches up and rubs his own skull right on the crown of his head.
The text describes a sudden, overwhelming visual shift. He reveals the Buddha light, spiritual light, the three lights. His skull literally emanates divine illumination. We transition from the grit of a street fight to an undeniable display of divinity.
We've mentioned the term arhat, but what does that actually mean in this moment? What is Shen Mieliang looking at?
In Buddhist tradition, an arhat is a perfected person. They have attained deep insight into the true nature of existence and have achieved nirvana.
Meaning they don't get reincarnated anymore.
Right. They are free from the cycle of rebirth and suffering. They are distinct from bodhisattvas who delay their final nirvana to help others, though in popular Chinese literature, the lines often blur.
So he's not just a monk.
When Shen sees the three lights, he realizes he is not looking at a crazy monk. He is looking at a fully enlightened, divine being who has mastery over reality itself.
And Shen Mieliang's reaction is immediate. The 90-year-old master, a revered figure in his own right, drops to his knees. He bows deeply, chanting immeasurable Buddha. He shows absolute, terrifying reverence.
He recognizes that a god is walking among them.
And how does the enlightened divine being respond to this moment of supreme reverence? He laughs out loud, turns around, and starts walking away.
He doesn't stick around to be worshipped.
He doesn't preach a sermon, but as he walks down the road, he begins to sing a folk song. And this song is the philosophical anchor of the entire chapter. It is a masterpiece of existential poetry known as the Song of Impermanence.
It is the thesis statement of the narrative. Let's break down the lyrics, because they pull every chaotic thread of the story together.
The song begins with the brutal, undeniable math of human existence. Jigong sings, Living to 70 is rare since ancient times. First, subtract the youth, then subtract the old age. The middle time is not very long, and it is filled with idle sorrows and vexations.
The math of life is so blunt. If you take an average lifespan, which, let's remember, in the historical context of this story, reaching 70 was genuinely a rarity, how much of that time do you actually possess?
Very little. The song demands that you subtract your youth, the years when you are ignorant, dependent, and lacking agency.
Then you must subtract the years of old age, when you are frail, your body is declining, and your capabilities are limited. What is left over?
That middle time, a fleeting few decades of true, capable adulthood.
And the tragedy is what we do with that brief middle time. The song says it is filled with idle sorrows and vexations. We spend our only capable years stressing out.
We weaponize lunch menus. We get into fistfights over stolen silver. We obsess over what strangers in a tea house are saying about our reputation.
The song continues by highlighting the futility of chasing perfection. After mid-autumn, the moon is no longer bright. After Qingming, the flowers are no longer good.
That's a beautiful line.
This is a commentary on the fleeting nature of peaks. The mid-autumn moon is perfectly full, but the very next night, it begins to wane. The moment something reaches its absolute zenith, its decay has already begun.
Therefore, the song suggests, before the flowers and under the moon, sing loudly. One must urgently empty the golden goblet.
Urgently empty the golden goblet, drink the wine now, experience the present moment intensely because it is already rotting.
But then the song pivots to directly attack the societal structures we spend our middle time chasing. It says, "The abundant money in the world cannot be exhausted. The many official posts in the court cannot be finished. High officials and abundant wealth only turn the heart to worry, resulting in early white hair."
This is a direct, targeted commentary on the characters we've just spent the last hour dissecting. Look at the younger Taoist at the restaurant.
The one with the silver.
He was carrying an immense fortune. His abundant wealth and his attachment to it led to him being publicly humiliated and beaten in the street.
Then look at Shen Gudong. He was obsessed with his heroic reputation, his equivalent of a high official post.
The threat to that reputation led to a double murder and the destruction of his life. And what did their attachments get them? Early white hair, anxiety, suffering.
The text explicitly argues that the pursuit of material wealth and social status does not generate security. It generates a constant, accelerating anxiety that ages the soul.
It is a profound indictment of the rat race.
And the song concludes with the most leveling, chilling imagery imaginable. It says, "Spring, summer, autumn, and winter pass in the snap of a finger. The evening bell sends off the dusk. The rooster announces the dawn." Gentlemen, look closely at the people before your eyes. Year by year, they are buried under the wild grass. Among the tall and short graves in the grass, half of them, all year round, have no one to sweep them.
Unswept graves. To fully grasp the horror of this line, we have to understand the Qingming festival, which the song referenced earlier.
What happens during Qingming?
Qingming is tomb sweeping day. In traditional Chinese culture, filial piety, the respect and care for one's ancestors, is a foundational pillar of society. Sweeping the tombs, offering food, and burning paper money for your ancestors guarantees their comfort in the afterlife and proves that they are remembered.
So an unswept grave isn't just about poor landscaping.
No, an unswept grave is a spiritual tragedy. It means you have been entirely forgotten. It means your family line has died out or your descendants have abandoned their duties. It is the ultimate erasure from existence.
The song is warning that all the wealth and status you accumulate will not save you from this fate. The wild grass claims everyone equally.
If we pull back and synthesize this entire narrative arc, the genius of the text becomes apparent. The restaurant scam, the absurd turn-based fight, the tragic history of the bodyguard, they are not random events.
They are practical, physical demonstrations of the song's philosophy.
Jigong behaves chaotically to force people to confront their attachments. He steals the silver to prove to the Taoists that money only brings violence. He exposes the murder to prove to the 90-year-old master that trauma is an illusion of the past.
The Arhat steps into the world not to sit in a temple and demand worship, but to physically disrupt the petty, destructive anxieties of everyday human life.
It is a beautiful, quiet, deeply profound moment. The divine being singing a folk song about the inevitability of death as he walks away into the sunset.
You feel like the chapter should just fade to black right here and leave the reader to meditate on impermanence?
The text successfully brings the reader to a state of absolute philosophical stillness.
And then the text violently yanks us back into the bureaucratic, high-stakes machinery of the real world. The narrative whiplash strikes one last time.
It is perhaps the most jarring transition in the entire book.
It's hilarious. We go directly from the ethereal Buddha-Lighten poetry about unswept graves straight to the yamen of Kwazhou Prefecture, where Prefect Zhang Yud is literally doing paperwork.
Doing paperwork and stressing out?
The scene cuts abruptly. The prefect is sitting at his desk saying, "Where did the holy monk go? I've sent people everywhere to find him." And Jigong just casually strolls into the office and says, "Oh, I was out having a drink with a friend. What do you need, Your Honor?"
And the prefect immediately reports on the mundane, bureaucratic reality of the criminal justice system. He has finished interrogating two dangerous thieves, Hua Yunlong and Tian Gubin.
They have confessed.
This?
And now they need to be transported to the capital, Lin'a, to face justice.
And the text grounds this in gritty, heavy, wooden reality. It details the physical mechanics of their imprisonment.
They're locked in wooden kangs.
Right. Heavy wooden boards worn around the neck to physically restrain and publicly humiliate a prisoner. And they are being loaded into prisoner carts and then onto a boat to take the water routes.
It is the absolute opposite of ethereal enlightenment.
And Jigong volunteers to join the escort. He gets on the boat with two headmen, officers named Chai and Du, who are in charge of guarding the prisoners.
And what is the very first thing the enlightened Arhat says to these two guards as they set sail?
What does he say?
He immediately starts talking about money. He says, "Congratulations to you both. Once we deliver these thieves to Lin'a, you'll go to the yamen and collect a massive reward of 1,200 taels of silver. That's exactly 600 taels for each of you."
This forces us to ask a critical question about the author's intent. Why juxtapose divine enlightenment with exact bureaucratic accounting?
We just spent an hour exploring how wealth is an empty dream and how attachment to silver causes early white hair. And in the very next breath, the fully enlightened monk is explicitly detailing a massive bounty split perfectly down the middle.
It's incredible. The text refuses to let us stay in the clouds. It's essentially saying, yes, wealth is a cosmic illusion, but also a 1,200 tael bounty is a 1,200 tael bounty, and these guards have bills to pay.
It speaks to the profound duality of existence in these classic Chinese texts.
True enlightenment in this tradition doesn't mean escaping the world entirely to live in a cave and ignore reality. It means navigating the messy, violent, physical world without losing your soul to it.
The spiritual truths are eternal. Impermanence is real. Death comes for us all. But at the same time, human beings still have to live in society. The yamen must function. Criminals must be transported. Bounties must be paid.
You can be completely awake to the illusion of the material world, but you still have to row the boat down the river.
And more importantly, you still have to deal with what is waiting in the river, because the story does not end peacefully on that boat.
No, it ends on a massive, violent cliffhanger. The text states that as the prison barge travels down the water routes and reaches a place called Xiaolongku, the escort is suddenly ambushed.
4 river pirates, described as fierce, dangerous outlaws, suddenly erupt from the water. They are there to board the boat, hijack the wooden cages, and free the prisoners.
And that is exactly where the chapter excerpt abruptly ends.